Well, let's discuss the latest developments in the campaign with four candidates. Chris Rodgers is the Liberal candidate in the riding of Carleton in suburban Ottawa. Randy Hoback is the candidate for the Conservative Party in the riding of Prince Albert in Saskatchewan. He joins us from there today. Angella MacEwen is the NDP candidate in Ottawa West Nepean. And Jean-Luc Cooke is the Green Party candidate in the riding of Nepean. It's good to see you all. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All of the parties talking about pocketbook issues today. So let's start there. We've had an announcement today about transit tax credit from the Conservatives. We had an announcement about capping cell phone rates, some measures for small business. So let's start there. What's your party doing to ease some of these affordability concerns for Canadians? Mr. Rodgers, let me start with you.
Absolutely. Well, I think what we're doing, the Liberal Party, is very much a continuation of what we've been doing for the past 4 years. So we reduced income tax for the middle class. That was one of the very first things that we did. We also reduced small business tax. Today we had an announcement where we're going to help businesses thrive today. We're eliminating the swiping fee, so when a purchase is made with a credit card, there will be no fee on the GST or HST on that. And we're also helping new businesses grow by making available for up to 2,000 entrepreneurs every year, up to $50,000 in capital to help folks get into business and support entrepreneurs.
All right, Mr. Hoback, let me go to you. What's the Conservative Party promising in this campaign that makes life more affordable for Canadians?
Well, that's our whole model, is to help you get ahead. And I think people are expressing that over the last 4 years that even though the economy supposedly is doing well, when you look out here, it's not. They're saying we're getting left behind, and we're looking at things that we can do to actually help it make more affordable. So whether it's the couple that goes on maternity leave, they don't have to pay income tax from their paternity benefits, or taking the GST off home heating, or like today we announced the tax credit for transit. Those are things that will actually save people money and help them get ahead. Those are the types of things you'll see announced from the Conservative Party over the next 3 weeks.
Angella MacEwen, what about the NDP?
Well, the problem with the Liberals' middle class tax cut is that it didn't actually help anybody in the middle class. You only got the tax benefit if you were making more than $45,000 a year, and the median wage for people is in the $30,000 a year. So you were well in the top 20% if you were getting the max return from that middle class tax cut. So it's not middle class. And what the Conservatives plan to do is they'll cut our taxes, but then they'll cut our services too. And when you're cutting the tax on, say, maternity benefits, same thing applies, where if you're getting the full maternity benefits, you're already kind of doing fairly well. And so you're missing a whole chunk of people that are worse off than that you're not helping with these kind of targeted approaches. So what the NDP is talking about doing is actually making life more affordable. We've talked about building 500,000 more units of affordable housing. We need more non-market housing, because that's the biggest problem I hear when I talk to people at the door. We are capping cell phone rates and internet rates, because if you're in Saskatchewan, where Randy Hoback is, there's SaskTel, which is a Crown corporation, which actually has service as its primary goal, not profit. And so cell phone bills and internet is much cheaper there because there's competition in the market.
Right.
And finally, we're going to get rid of interest on student loans, because I think that makes a bigger difference for people being able to start and be entrepreneurs if they're not weighed down by student loans.
Mr. Cooke, a lot of people have heard what the Green Party stands for on issues of climate change and so on. Lots of people asking more questions now about economic policy. What are you doing to make life more affordable for Canadians?
Well, I'll start at the part of society that's at the bottom of the income scale. The Green Party wants to bring out a basic annual income that'll cover people in the lowest levels of income, of wealth, but also to raise the minimum personal exemption on your income taxes. It doesn't make any sense that someone living below the poverty line is paying income taxes only to have those funds returned back to them in services, in additional services on top of that. It's far more efficient to let the money stay in their pockets. The announcement today about small business, about the swipe fees on credit card, we're talking about 13% on a 2% charge on credit cards. I don't think that's going to tip the scales on small business. When I talk to
small businesses have been asking for it for months and months, and they talk about, what is it? Say, I think $500 million it'll save for small business.
Sure. At the door, when I meet small business owners in Barrhaven, they tell me their main burden isn't necessarily the tax rate. They want to keep the tax rate where it is. Their main burden is actually regulatory burden. Everything from doing duplicative tax filings and other forms of red tapes. The Green Party is going to be simplifying that a lot for small business.
Okay. Go ahead,
I was just going to add, our plan to support small business is very much in line with our plan to support the middle class in general. That's why when you look at
leaves a lot of people out.
when you look at the Canada Child Benefit, that was more money for 9 out of 10 families, and it was tax-free. We've also provided more support for the lowest income seniors and enhanced the Canada Pension Plan. These are things that support all Canadians, and we're very proud of those things.
Let me hear you, Mr.
But, you know,
Hoback.
I think a lot of people are saying, okay, you say you're going to do this, but you said in the last election you're going to balance the budget in 4 years and you're going to just have a small deficit. How can we even trust what you say? I think Canadians are looking at the Liberal Party and saying, we don't trust you. You're unethical, you've lied in the past, you haven't kept your promises, so why today should I trust you? And the reality is they can't. The only person they can trust to lead this country in the right direction is Andrew Scheer and the Conservative Party. And that's why we're seeing droves of people coming to our party over the last couple of weeks.
Let me turn our conversation to the debate last night, as some of those issues around the economy were raised in the debate last night. Let me ask you, Mr. Rodgers, let me go back to you quickly on this and ask you, the Prime Minister wasn't there. He was the one leader of the parties represented here that wasn't at the debate last night. Do you wish he had been there, and do you think it does him any damage that he wasn't?
The Prime Minister spent yesterday speaking to Canadians in Victoria and Edmonton. He's looking forward to, as we all are looking forward to, speaking to with as many Canadians as possible. And we're already doing that. And over the next 30-some days, we're going to continue to speak to as many people as possible and to deliver our message.
All right, so you don't think
he
lost anything by not being at the debate?
Absolutely not.
Angella MacEwen?
It would be really disappointing if he didn't lose anything from not going to the debate. I think that voters were paying attention. I think they noticed the empty podium. I think that they feel like he's disrespecting them by not showing up. I think Jagmeet Singh showed us what it looks like to show up and to fight for Canadians. And that Trudeau that was a real opportunity for him to show up, even though he didn't have to, and he let it go.
A lot of people talk about the battle for third place with Greens and New Democrats. What did you think of Mr. Singh's performance in the context of if there's a fight between Elizabeth May and Jagmeet Singh, how did that change last night?
Well, first I'll mention about Justin Trudeau not being in the debates. In 2015, he made a lot of hay on Stephen Harper skipping out on debates. And this time around, he decided to skip out on one of the debates and keep Elizabeth May out of another one in Quebec in the French language debates with TVA. So I think when people compare Justin Trudeau 2015, Justin Trudeau 2019, they see an inconsistency. What they did see with Elizabeth May and Jagmeet Singh, I believe, is actually consistency. Elizabeth May is a known quantity, she's a known product, and I think that is why a lot of voters are starting to support the Green Party in that regards. Now, as for Jagmeet Singh's performance last night, I think he did a lot of very standard things in debates extremely well. Referring back to personal anecdotes, I know so-and-so who is in this situation.
But he took on Elizabeth May almost more than anybody else. He really wanted to challenge some of Elizabeth May's positions on things, and there was some...
I would say that some of the things he said were delusional to the point of fantasy. To categorize Elizabeth May as someone who is anti-choice on abortion is ludicrous.
Accurate based on her past positions?
Incorrect.
All right, Mr. Hoback, listen, I want to look at a clip, bring you in here. I want to look at a clip last night from the debate. And this is, there's some pushback today for your leader, Mr. Scheer, on some of the comments he made, using the word hostage in terms of describing Indigenous communities who might want to hold up projects. And he was raising concerns about that in the context of what that means for jobs for other people in Indigenous communities. Let's listen to that clip, and then I'll come back to you.
We cannot create a system in this country where one group of individuals, one Indigenous community, can hold hostage large projects that employ so many Indigenous Canadians.
And first of all, you use language like hold hostage. I mean, that's just incredibly disrespectful off the top.
You tell that to us.
Language you
what
are
happens
using,
if
Andrew,
one
shows no
Indigenous
respect.
community says no?
So, Mr. Hoback, today Andrew Scheer is not backing down on that. He's standing by the concerns he raised. Is that appropriate language to use to describe people who, Indigenous communities who oppose an energy project as holding it hostage?
Well, you know, legitimate concerns being raised by constituents all across Canada in regards to getting projects built and done. The reality is what he's expressing, I think, was what he's hearing from people on the ground here in Canada. You know, when we see things like pipelines being held up by one group or one other group, when it's in the best interest of all of Canada, First Nations right across Canada, and we see one group holding it up, well, that's a problem. So no, you can't give them a veto. You have to have a system in place that, yes, you hear all the concerns, you take and do everything you can to mitigate any type of risks that may be associated with this project that you're building and the mine that you're building, but then you still have to be able to move forward. You can't just let one group stop the progress that's required. And I think the other thing he was expressing very relatively clearly, if you look at northern Saskatchewan, if you look at Cameco, the uranium mine, the number of First Nations that are employed in that mine is phenomenal. And if it wasn't there, they would be unemployed. There wouldn't be a lot of work out in that region. So if you can't let projects like that move forward, well, then what are these folks supposed to do? What type of jobs will they have? How do they raise their family? How do they have a good quality of life? So he's just expressing that in a way that constituents express it right across Canada.
All right, let me hear from the others at the table here. What did you think of what you heard last night?
Well, I think what we're seeing is really a choice. There's an adversarial approach that we've seen with the Ford government in Ontario. We saw through the Harper years. And in 2015, Canadians rejected that. They've chose a positive plan for the future where we invest in Canadians, where we invest in the middle class. And that's what I think is on the table for 2019. And that's what we're talking about. You know, when I'm on the doors, people want to talk about affordability,
Hang on, Mr.
environment,
Hoback.
and so on.
Angella MacEwen, go ahead.
Right, and I think that was actually a good example of the Green Party and the NDP having a similar position on an issue. I think we do overlap and agree on a lot of things. And one of those things is that neither the Conservatives or the Liberals have a good position on this. In order for there to be consent, there has to be a possibility that the answer is no, right? And so if we're talking about free, prior informed consent, if we're talking about the rights of Indigenous people and fully including them in these decision-making.
But that was the conversation last night, right?
So exactly, so those communities know whether or not it's good for that community or not.
What if there's consent from some, even the majority of Indigenous communities along the way and not from others? Does that mean the project shouldn't go ahead?
That's correct, yes.
All right.
Because, I mean, that's what it means.
Right, Mr. Cooke?
Justin Trudeau was asked in 2015 if a First Nation does not want a project to go forward, is that a veto? And he said, absolutely. He's changing his tone once again. And I do agree, the NDP and the Greens are 100% on this. Indigenous people and the nations are not a constituency. They are another nation. And in the nation-nation relationship, we have to treat it that way. If someone wants to build a road through my backyard and they have to ask for my consent, they don't go ahead and ask my wife because they know I'm going to say no. If I say no, then they can't build it through, and that's just it.
And if a developer wants to build a building, everybody on the block has to agree that they're going to sell their house.
All right, Mr. Hoback, I know you wanted to quickly end. One quick comment here, and we got to go.
Well, you know, again, it comes back to, in this campaign, what I'm hearing on the ground here is very, very clear. They can't trust this prime minister. He's proven twice to be unethical. Is this the type of person we want to see on the international stage representing Canada? You know, he's been known to lie in the past. The SNC-Lavalin affair is a classic example of that. We're seeing so many times when this prime minister has gone and embarrassed us on the international stage. And those things are now really, really affecting people's decision on how they're going to vote in this election.
Okay, we'll have to leave it at that. We'll have a chance to chat again, I'm sure. But thank you all for your time today. Good to see you all. Take care, and good luck to all of you. Bye now.